Okay, recording.
All right.
All right, Kelly.
All
So
right,
is it
Sergey.
Dr. Kelly? Dr.
I don't care.
Doctor.
Only some,
No, but it's like legitimately, it's Dr.
Yeah,
Kelly.
yeah.
That's how people call
some people.
So why don't you explain people why are you Dr. Kelly?
So
What's the background?
Yeah, so my background is I'm a licensed clinical psychologist in California, and then I'm also a professor at Sophia University, which is a transpersonal psychology university, and I was also on the clinical faculty at Stanford previously.
So you study at Stanford?
No, I didn't study at Stanford. I just
working
taught,
there.
I taught there, yeah.
Okay, maybe you just need to talk a little bit louder, just
Okay,
in case,
yeah.
if you can,
Yeah.
just as much as you can. Okay, good. So maybe you want to share like what brought you to psychology, why you become a psychologist in the first place, and then how that transitioned into the plant medicine. You know,
Yeah.
it's an interesting path.
Yeah, so initially my first love wasn't psychology. My first love was comparative mysticism because I started having mystical experiences as a teenager, more spontaneously. I got initiated into something called Surat Shabd Yoga, and that's a meditation on inner light and sound. And through that practice, I started being taught in between like waking and dream states by some type of beings and having visions. So because of that, I was mainly interested in comparative mysticism, how different people experience the divine. But then my mom said, what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with the religious studies degree? So that was my first major, actually.
Like in terms of work career, there's nothing there. You know, how are you going to
You
pay
can
your mortgage, man?
You can only be basically a professor, right? So I'm like, okay, psychology is pretty interesting. So I double majored in psychology at that point. What are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with the religious studies degree? So that was my first major, actually.
Like in terms of work career, there's nothing there. You know, how are you going to pay
You
your
can
mortgage, man?
You can only be basically a professor, right? So I'm like, okay, psychology is pretty interesting. So I double majored in psychology at that point. What are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with the religious studies degree? So that was my first major, actually.
Like in terms of work career, there's nothing there. You know, how are you going to pay
You
your
can
mortgage, man?
You can only be basically a professor, right? So I'm like, okay, psychology is pretty interesting. So I double majored in psychology at that point. What are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with the interested in transpersonal psychology specifically? That's really my passion, my specialty, and that's a lot of what I teach right now.
So what is transpersonal psychology?
So transpersonal psychology is basically one person described it as the fourth force, and that basically means early on there's things like behaviorism, which they're just studying a person's behavior in the world. And then there's things like cognitive psychology, that's more studying the mind. And then the transpersonal...
Are they connected?
Yeah. Body, mind. But these traditions, though, only look at behavior. They don't look at anything.
But that's like trying to take it, to diagnose a car in a mechanic shop by looking at the tires.
Yeah.
Without the brake system, without the fluid in the tank. I mean, isn't it like that?
Yeah, that's how behaviorism was. But later on, they started looking more at the brain and the nervous system. But a lot of those traditions don't look at lived experience, right? So in, integral psychology, they try to look at everything. Brain, behavior, like inner experience, everything. That's integral psychology. Transpersonal psychology looks at experiences beyond the ego. So if someone has a mystical experience, a sense of oneness with nature.
That's mystical realism, sorry.
Yeah. So our specialty is studying those types of experiences.
This one.
Transpersonal.
That's what you call by transpersonal.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
beyond the ego.
Beyond the ego. That's our unique specialty.
Okay, so and that's you study that where?
The Institute of Transpersonal Psychology. Now it's called Sophia, and that's where I teach now.
Sophia from the Gnostics.
That's right. Divine Goddess, wisdom incarnation.
So and then you use all that in your psychotherapy?
Yeah.
With people, all these modalities?
Yeah, I'm more spiritually oriented. So I believe everyone has a soul. I believe that soul has incarnated into a human body for a specific purpose. But given the current world, I think most people aren't in touch with that. Most people come to see me, they have like trauma or they're depressed or anxious or something like that.
Okay, good. So that's a good introduction. So now, how did you get to all psychedelic realms of plant medicine from that point?
Yeah, so my first experience was with mushrooms, and at the time I was practicing this Indian tradition. So immediately, my first experience was very spiritual. So I was just, my first experience, I saw light above my head, and I was meditating, and that light was basically connected to everything, right? So I'm like, oh. So I was already on a spiritual path, and then the mushrooms just highlighted who I am, basically, right? It was my experience. Oh, this stuff just highlights who I am. I didn't get really into it at that time. That was more just like in college and kind of like spontaneous.
Immature yet, that more.
Yeah, so that was early on.
But that opens the door.
That opened the door. I knew, oh, these things are useful, right? I was never really against, psychedelics. Or
And then?
And then, let me think. So, just periodically working with different psychedelics, and I would say one of the probably one of the strongest transformative processes happened when I first worked with ayahuasca. So that was in 2000 and probably around 2006.
Around the same time when I come to the jungle.
Yeah.
That's end of 2025. I mean, 2005.
Yeah. So, so I was in my first ayahuasca ceremony, and I felt some type of like presence in the room. And I'm like, what is this? And I asked it, like, who are you? And then the thing that she said was, Kali. And I'm like, okay. So I started dialoguing.
That was in the jungle here?
Yeah, in Peru.
In Peru.
So then I started talking with this thing. So I started talking with this thing, and we started having a dialogue, actually. And I'm like, how do I know you're not just a figment?
Anyone. How do you know you're benevolent?
Hola Kelly, buenos días.
Buenos días.
Tell mucho, ¿ya?
Ajá, ya volvemos.
Yes, tell me. We are here.
Ya, no.
Tell me. Enjoy.
Bye.
I'll text you later.
So I'm starting to talk to this
Thing.
thing, right? And like I'm coming more at this point.
Indian.
Huh?
You're coming from the Indian background.
Yeah, I'm coming from the Indian background, but I'm also very immersed in the scientific perspective. So I start talking to this thing. I'm like, how do I know you're not a figment of my imagination?
Yeah.
How
What
do
was
I
the
know?
answer? That's a good question, actually.
Yeah.
So what she said?
So it seemed like she was playing with me, because she would kind of like laugh and then like turn into one form and then turn into another form.
But that can still be your imagination.
Yeah,
So what was the
exactly.
answer like?
That was her answer.
Ah, that's the answer. So
Yeah.
she didn't say it.
She's basically playing with me. So actually, for the first 5 ceremonies I did, it was something like that. I was just like talking to this being, like questioning its existence. It's just a figment of my imagination. One thing she did say to me during the ceremony, one woman was like crying a lot, and she told me, "Oh, that woman's crying because like something, she lost a baby."
And you
So
couldn't know that.
I should have asked, because if that was true,
That would be confirmation.
then it's a stronger confirmation. There's something called super psi, which is basically us being able to
tune in.
to psychic
You
information.
can.
But it would have been stronger
Stronger,
evidence that, okay,
there's something
being,
there.
This being's not just my imagination. And I wasn't fully trusting of the being, because I'm very connected to different Buddhist lineages, very connected to, it's almost like I have my own spiritual network already when I started working with ayahuasca. So I was like, but she's asking me, do you want to work with me? And I'm like, I'm not sure. I don't know exactly
Who you
or
are.
what you are and what you're about. But by the 5th ceremony, I have enough experiences that I felt like, okay, this is some sort of, something beyond my mind, right? This is some sort of being beyond my mind. And she's doing good work with people. So after that 5th ceremony, I said, okay, I've seen how you work. I see how you work with people. I'll work with you. All right. So since that time, I've had a very deep relationship. My view is that she is some sort of... Actually, my experience and view of her is that she's some type of cosmic intelligence.
But that is ayahuasca spirit.
Yeah.
That is her.
I know.
Yeah, no?
Even when I would talk to her too, she's like, some of these people who think I'm just the spirit of this plant don't really know me and don't really see me.
No, it's cosmic. I get
She's
it all
cosmic.
the time.
She's a cosmic
For me,
intelligence.
ayahuasca, it's a starlight.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Yeah.
That's how I know when she's in the room. It's like,
Yeah.
I just see the
I
starlight. It's
I
like
feel her.
feeling and then starlight.
Yeah.
For me, it's
I
that.
feel her
Feeling comes
presence
first.
enter the whole room, and then I see her working on everything.
The presence comes first, and
Yeah.
then starlights for me.
Yeah.
So you said moonlight, starlight. Like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
For me, it's that.
Yeah.
Always.
You know how I test it too? I ask her a lot of questions, and she'll say stuff that's totally not what I'm thinking. Right? Like a good example is with my health stuff recently during the ayahuasca ceremonies.
Here with us.
No, this
Oh,
is-
before.
I asked her, how do I address this issue? And she said, oh, you have some nasty bugs in your system now. You should just take antibiotics or something, knock them out. But the whole time, I was thinking, I don't want to take antibiotics, it's going to throw off my microbiome. So when I'm getting information or something's telling me something very different than what I'm thinking, that's, to me, stronger evidence that it's something
not
else.
yours.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
So, so that's been an ongoing relationship now. The ayahuasca divine mother is usually how I experience. Actually, Sophia, right? In divine cosmic intelligence, wisdom, right? It's usually how I experience her. When I'm in ceremony, I have no doubt this is something beyond my mind. When I'm out of ceremony, I'm like, and I think it's a type of mixture, right? Some of the stuff is my own mind. Some of it's coming from something beyond my mind, right? So I think even if you look at psychics and stuff, usually it's something like there's some elements from the person's personal imagination and consciousness,
It's not all.
but some coming from something bigger.
It's all. But that's exactly the point where science loses its way. It's right there.
Where?
Right there, when it's like there's something other.
Other, yeah.
than you.
That's right, yeah.
That's where they are. They are.
That's what I'm saying.
I think if you stretch them, like if you really stretch those guys' mind, you might arrive somewhere near the possibility of psychic ability, which that would be already like for them like
The mainstream.
the quantum leap from
Yeah.
where they are.
Yeah.
But from that point to the other, that's like another thousands of years of research.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, so one of my colleagues, he talked about collective visions, right? Meaning, actually, his Huachuma teacher, he'd have collective visions a lot. Meaning, in one ceremony,
Everybody sees the same thing.
he looked to the left, and he saw an indigenous man smoking a mapacho, not physical. And then he asked another person in the ceremony, "What do you see right there?" She's like, "Oh, an indigenous man smoking a mapacho."
That's not very common.
What's that?
That's not common.
It's not common. You know what's interesting is that Mayor Sue said, "Oh, your previous teacher, people commonly had collective visions, didn't they?"
Mm-hmm.
So there was something about her or her medicine that would initiate that. And that's that's how the whole
It's a different energy.
it's interesting.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is I've been getting kind of teachings from my old teacher, and it's same this astral realm,
Not the realm, it's okay, but the visions are individuals, and the insights are individuals. That's in my ceremonies.
But what about these collective visions? That's pretty interesting.
It's interesting. It's a
Right.
phenomenon.
Yeah,
It's a phenomenon.
because to me,
Just confirm a certain.
that's again building evidence
Yeah.
for that these kind of astral realms are real.
Yeah, of course.
They're interlaid with the physical. Mainstream scientists don't believe this, but most spiritual people actually have some concept of that. Right? There's subtler dimensions of reality that are collective. Right?
But you don't need collective vision for that. You just take the medicine and see what's happening there.
Yeah.
It's like it's your individual experience, but you can tell that what you experience is real and it's very different from your day-to-day experience.
Yeah, it's opening up vaster terrains of the universe, right?
Each time you come to chat with me in ceremony, I see you like you just arrived from a galactic travel.
Yeah.
It's like this guy was okay. I can tell what's the conversation going to be about. It's like just kind of completely like torn apart and like completely worn off. Like this is like that's how I would imagine space travel.
Yeah, it's like space travel.
It's like
It is.
that's exhausted.
There's different frequencies of energy, right? And this is actually mainstream science, though. There's different frequencies of energy, and depending on what we're using to perceive, different worlds emerge, right? That's for you right now with your eyesight is attuned to a specific frequency of energy, and everything you see is the interaction between the electromagnetic frequency and your perception system. But if you take a different, if you take Golas or other types of species, totally different perceptions. So they're living in totally different worlds.
And yet we communicate.
Yeah.
That's
So there's
the
overlap.
It's overlap.
Right.
Yeah.
There's
There's
overlapping.
points of interference
Yeah.
kind of between the perception.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, it's
You know,
very
but think about you're talking cross species, but what about within the species? There are people within the species that we are different in perception, just as us and animals. You know what I mean? It's although we have the same kind of building capacities, and we share the same,
beliefs, attention.
Yeah.
Actually, different conditionings, different genetics, right?
Yeah, it's many factors.
All of those things
Many.
together influence that, right?
And yet we're trying to find a common language with all of them, which I found that shamanism is the best. It's a universal language.
Shamanism?
Shamanism
How come?
in general, because it just takes you out of all this problem with conditioning, just takes you into the realm of spirit when we're all one, when we're all seeing the same thing, and
Yeah.
not seeing like your visions, your individual. That's separate.
Yeah.
Oh, here we are. Here's nature. Here's the connection to divine, and here's the feel of sacredness, like the
Yeah,
sensation, the sense of sacredness
yeah.
of life,
Yeah.
and that's beyond everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's beyond Korea. That's beyond Russia.
yeah.
That's beyond
Of course.
skin color,
Yeah,
religious. Probably it's like
Yeah.
here we are in spirit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's like it's uniting.
Yeah.
It's the most uniting language, I would
Yeah.
say.
I think it doesn't need to be shamanism. I think there's different ways, right, that we can frame it. But actually, I think, to me, that's like one of the most important things right now in human culture, is having a sacred base to our worldviews and being able to connect that way.
Well, shamanism brings you there.
Yeah.
Plant medicine. It's,
But I think
The fastest
different
way.
spiritual traditions.
yeah, you can. I mean, you just sit in meditation circle or doing yoga from different masters. That will be this kind of a similar thing. It's coming
Similar thing,
together. It's just
yeah.
not as deep
Not as fast and deep.
fast and deep. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just boom. But it's
Yeah.
the same kind of mindset. That's why spiritual practices are important. Just brings people together and
I agree.
shows that we have more in common than we're not.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
very important because
Yeah,
the
yeah.
world is very divided.
Totally.
So that's how we glue it back together.
Yeah.
Through that.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, I agree.
So moving on from that,
Yeah, we should talk about trauma
yeah,
and like your way of working with
Yeah.
it and my way of
Yeah,
working
yeah.
with it. Because, a lot of people
Yeah.
have trauma. I see different,
yeah.
things in myself and all the people here. And I'm like, oh. And actually, a lot of my journeys this time, I'm being taught exactly how the plant medicine works. Ow! Exactly how people open up with the medicine. They get free from their trauma, or they deeply process their trauma, right? When the medicine wears off, those old patterns start coming back, right? So the medicine is actually teaching me how to help people.
To maintain the freedom from
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I think
That's
now,
important. That's very important.
I think with psychedelic assisted therapy, plant medicine, that integration's the key now. I think, the openings are obviously important, but if people don't integrate and they go back to all their old tendencies, it's like,
Okay, let's talk about
Yeah,
this.
let's
So,
talk about it.
which trauma you want to talk specific? Like, what do you see more in your practice? What is the majority of trauma that you see mainly?
So I see a lot of childhood trauma. That's across the board.
Yeah.
So that's a big one. With women, right, we talked about this, and even here, a lot of women experience sexual trauma.
Yeah, which is like
Sexual
four.
violence.
How much? 4 of them?
At least.
At least four women in the group
Yeah.
had that at some point in their
Four
life.
out of what?
Of 5?
Yeah.
We have
I
5
told- I
women,
told
and the
you
rest are the
it was like-
guys.
Yeah, and I look at my history and look at just like in general people and then in therapy, I'm like 8 or 9 out of 10 women. It's like
That's crazy.
It's like a
It's
pandemic.
That's a real pandemic.
It's a real
I
pandemic.
never thought that the numbers are so high.
It's
like,
so high. You know why? Most women don't advertise that. Unless
it's
they
like more
feel
suppressed,
safe.
yeah. It's shame kind of thing.
Shame. Yeah. So that's big. That's a big thing with
It's
trauma.
like what 1 out of 10 been abused.
9 out of
Oh, I mean, sorry,
8,
9 out of
yeah,
10.
yeah.
8, 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
That's a crazy number.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's a sick.
Yeah,
It's a
it's
sick
patriarchy,
reality, man.
basically. Like men treating women like objects. And this is part of the sickness of society. When people, bless you, when people start treating other people like objects rather than divine, sacred
Yeah.
beings, you have this problem.
Yeah.
And this isn't just right like sexuality. This is like exploitation.
Yeah.
You know, like corporations, like all this stuff. It creates toxicity across human culture, actually.
So, okay, let's talk about that then. Sexual
Okay.
abuse is important.
Mhm.
So, let's talk about how we work with that
Okay.
and how we can help
Yeah.
people to heal it and get
Yeah.
over it. You know,
So you tell me first
how I work.
how you work with it, and then I'll tell you how I work, and we'll talk about how best. to
How
serve.
best, yeah. Well, you know, well, I don't ask this kind of question. It's kind of
Yeah.
sensitive subject.
Yeah,
So
it is sensitive.
it's like if a person wants to open up, then we talk. If not, you know, even if I sense it in people,
Yeah.
I can sense in the medicine, like,
Yeah.
hey, that was sexual abuse, but then I don't really ask.
Yeah, you don't dig or.
No, I don't think it's personal. It's too. You want to chat about this? Okay. You don't want. Just
You kind of leave it alone.
leave it. You know,
So you leave it totally up to them.
up to them. Yeah, no, for sure. This thing I don't like. You know, other thing we can, but this thing is too private. You know, it's like, and then, but if people walk, open up, I'll listen to them, and it's really trying to understand them and kind of show support and also convey the message that not all men are bad.
Yeah.
There are good men
Yeah.
that respect women, you know. And here it's very helpful because we have family,
Yeah.
so they see it's different environment.
Yeah.
This is family, this is respect, this
Yeah.
is love,
Yeah.
this is safety. So they see like, okay, this is not just a therapy session that somebody is telling you that, oh, it's not all bad. It's like
Yeah.
it's actual thing.
Oh, I
so
see.
so it's more by experience.
Yeah.
Just living with us, seeing that a man can treat a woman differently.
Yeah.
And that gives them hope that
Yeah.
it doesn't really heal the trauma
Yeah.
in that sense. Like,
Yeah.
but it gives hope for the future, like, hey, okay, just need to heal that and then find a better man.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not all bad, it's not all, it's not all lost.
Yeah.
The world is not lost, and everybody's like this. So we give them that hope for the
Okay.
future.
Yeah.
And in the medicine, it's actually, the medicine helps you to make peace with your past,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it heals you. I mean, sometimes you relieve that.
Yeah.
You relieve that, and, people cry and stuff.
Yeah.
So you give them support there and kind of, hold their hands, kind
Yeah.
of metaphorically speaking.
Yeah.
And then just help them to leave past to the past. That's like actual medicine work. It's like it happened to you, yeah. I mean, that's unfortunate. But you don't need to carry that.
Yeah.
It's like you don't need to carry that. You kind of leave that in the past, and that's actual.
Yeah.
That's not just words.
Yeah.
In the medicine, you can. You're just okay. And you just forgive yourself, forgive like the whole thing. You just let it, not forgive because you accept the abuser. No. That's not forgiving. Forgiving is just letting go the weight, letting
Yeah.
go the pain. It's like, okay, I'm looking forward. I'm not going to carry this weight all my life.
Mhm.
That's heavy.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to help them is to leave that in the past, in the realm of memory, really, kind of disconnect emotionally from it. It's like you don't need to carry the pain. I mean, you still have a scar, but the scar is not bleeding, kind of
Yeah.
thing. That's what the medicine can help,
I understand.
and showing them that the world can. I mean, there is family, there is a relationship, there is respect.
Yeah.
It exists.
Yeah.
So kind of like that,
I see.
but gently.
Yeah.
Not digging, not like,
Yeah.
what happens. Like, just, you don't need to, what I mean?
Yeah.
Wash it in the river, ask the wind to blow it away, what I
Yeah.
mean? Just let it go.
Yeah.
So that's basically how, like, in general,
I see.
how I work with
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
So, and I've heard feedbacks back that it was helpful. It's like, okay, and you can tell people like, it's like get stronger, smile
Yeah.
back. They're kind of overcoming that. It's
Yeah,
like they
yeah.
kind of dominate their
Yeah.
trauma.
Yeah.
They're not drugged by that anymore. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's not like, I'm like, it's like, no, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm moving on. Like,
Yeah.
seriously,
Yeah, yeah.
they get empowered.
Yeah.
So that's how I work. So
I
how
see.
you work with that?
So how I work is pretty different, right? And it's different because of the context, right? Meaning, people come to me to work on stuff, right? So a lot of women who I work with, and if they have that trauma, they'll want to work on it, right?
So it's more specific and direct. Well,
Yeah.
I want help here.
They want
It's not
it.
like you have to.
Well, at first, always, right? Sometimes I don't know immediately. They don't bring it up right off the bat. So a lot of times, so in psychotherapy, the first step is building the relationship.
Yeah, trust, of course.
Trust,
Same
right.
here.
So building the trust, building the relationship, that's the kind of first step. And then, like you said, like if they trust me and they're comfortable, then they'll start opening up about it. But where my work is probably pretty different than yours is that, so there's these notions of trauma and how it's stored in the body. There's a lot of evidence now that supports this. Right? Trauma gets stored in the body. The tricky thing with trauma is a lot of people try to do what you're saying. They try to cut it off and just move on. But the problem is when they do that, it goes into the unconscious, and they have a lot of secondary symptoms, right? So that's why in my work, like doing trauma therapy, we look at what are the secondary symptoms, and we trace
Suppressed trauma.
Yeah, we trace it back.
But here we don't suppress trauma. It's not suppression. You work through that. It's not like you just forget about it. You work
But
through that.
then
you let
they
go.
have to experience it in some
Yeah.
form.
Oh, that's what the crime is.
Yeah.
The medicine brings that. You experience that.
Yeah.
You relieve that, and then you. It's not like you
Okay.
just forget about this.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Hey, Mango, get out of here, man. This guy just want to play all the time. So that's important
Okay,
thing.
that's similar.
We're not
then.
suppressing.
Not suppressing.
No, you're relieving that. We
Okay.
talk about you relieving that.
You
but
kind
then
of go
you just
back to it.
you go.
You feel it in the body.
You feel the pain.
You go through the memories,
and then you let
can
go.
let it.
It's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
just
that's it. That's
forget.
similar.
Forgetting it's
Yeah.
what you're saying.
Yeah,
It's like, well, it still haunts you in the dreams.
Yeah.
You know, it goes there sometimes. No, it's you
You
relive.
relive it to
relive
some
that.
degree. You release it.
You release it through experience
Trapped
pain.
energy. Right. Trapped energy.
trapped
pain.
pain.
Right. Yeah.
You release it, but through experiencing the
Yeah,
pain,
that's
and
right.
just
Yeah.
to the past.
So
That's it. You don't need to carry that.
similar. That's similar.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So then once the trauma opens up, right, there's a lot of re-experiencing. There's feeling it in the body.
Of course, it's the pain coming back.
And then they can feel the pain they haven't felt. Then they can release it. Right. Then they can be freed from the nervous system. From
Yeah,
the
exactly,
psyche.
from the psyche. But how you bring it about, because here I bring it in the medicine. The medicine does that, and I'm just guiding the process.
Yeah.
How you do it.
So there's different methods, right? So one way is something called EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing. That's a trauma therapy. And based on research right now, actually, that and something called exposure therapy are the best modalities to work with trauma right now, based on the research in clinical psychology. Right. So EMDR is one method I use, and basically in EMDR they go back to the memory, but while they're thinking about it, you're having them like move their eyes back and forth like this, or tap or something. And supposedly that activates both parts of the brain rhythmically, which helps them start to release the effects of the trauma from their psyche and their body. So that's one modality, right? So I don't use just one modality, though. I use something called sensory motor psychotherapy. That's more of a body-based therapy. That's when they're going to their body to re-experience what's trapped there. Similar, I'd say, to Huachuma. I think Huachuma works similarly to that. And then they're re-experiencing the pain in their body. Like, one of the participants last night, I was like helping her do something like that. Because I could see her defense mechanism, right? Her symptom is to go into her mind and like just spin there and like
Like away from pain.
away from
Away
her
from
mind.
trauma.
what are you feeling in your body right now?
'Cause that's
I
what the
feel
pain
so
is.
much pain.
Yeah,
You know, I'm like, gotta feel
Gotta
that.
feel it, yeah,
Because
yeah,
that
that's what it
starts
is.
to reprogram and release
Conscious.
all this stored unconscious pain. Right? So, and you know, I also do at a medical clinic. We work with ketamine. Too. So all those modalities. So I don't use just one modality. It's more with this person. What
What works for a
modality?
person.
What's going to work best? And since I'm working long term with people, we see, okay, you process that. Do you need another modality
Go
with
deeper.
the kind of, you know, any kind of like ongoing symptoms or aspects?
So with ketamine, it's a dissociated.
No,
Dissociated.
I would
That
say
helps you to
it's
separate from the pain and look at it more objectively.
from what I've seen, I
Uh-huh.
think ketamine works similarly to MDMA.
Wow.
So here's a thing too that I think right now in the field of psychedelic assisted therapy, they overemphasize the chemical.
Yeah.
They don't think enough about the relationship between the clinician and the client. They don't think enough about what is actually happening between the two during the session, right? So what I've seen is like, I have some clients, it's intense, right? They're not dissociated. They're experiencing this stuff like as vividly as ever, maybe, right? Because it was locked up.
No, it's really.
Now they have the ketamine to not get too overwhelmed, right? And this is the same with the MDMA,
Yeah, it's like,
right? Because I'm trained.
You can
by-
talk about it.
Yeah.
Like in
So the MDMA or ketamine allows them to move to these memories that were too
Without
painful,
being, like,
without
torn
freaking
apart.
out, right? And then once they're there, they're looking at different, you know, they literally are like in the scene, right? They're like, oh, I see this, and I see the person, right? So it helps them actually face the memory. And here's, I think, one of the keys is there's something called memory reconsolidation, right? So what happens is with memories, when memories aren't active, like when you don't think of a memory, it stays static, right? It stays in a certain form. But when you recall a memory up and you really experience it, all of those neuronal networks, the energy, all opens up, and whatever you start to do when the memory opens up starts changing the memory, right? And when the memory changes, right, then it can go back as a different memory.
kind of reformation in memory.
Yeah, it's called memory reconsolidation. And they, in psychotherapy research, they're looking at that process and they go, do you think this is the key to deep transformation?
But so if you alter memory, don't you alter the truth?
That's a question, right? So,
What happened?
yeah, but I'll give you an example. So I do this is another trauma therapy. It's called internal family systems, right? And in internal family system, what we do, we bring up memories, right? I do this a lot, actually. And then the person's in the memory, then I'm having like another compassionate version of themselves come into the memory and talking to the child, like protecting them, loving the child, right? And doing that, my sense, is changing the memory, right? So now that traumatic memory all of a sudden is getting reformed because they're talking about in like a caring, compassionate relationship, and they're doing things into the memory that's starting to shift things. And then that memory gets restored, so it's not causing like havoc in their unconscious.
Okay, I'm thinking how that could be applied to the war veterans, for example.
Same thing.
Same thing.
Same thing.
They can be helped through this.
Yeah.
Like they still remember the events.
Yeah, of
like they're in
course.
the war
Yeah.
zone, but just to bring another element
Yeah.
into it,
That's right.
so
Well-
that can help them.
Well, I'll tell you how it works.
Do you work with vets?
A little bit, not a lot.
Man,
Some-
these people need help.
yeah. Well, that's why they're doing the MDMA research with vets, right? So, and I was trained in that research. I watched the videos of it. Same stuff basically, right? But so how trauma works, right? Is I have some traumatic experience, and it's too painful, so and then that's stuck in my nervous system. So then, when I'm going about, if anything in my environment reminds me of that trauma, guess what's going to happen? My nervous system freaks out because it thinks, oh, I'm in the same environment.
the trauma.
I think I'm in the trauma. But people don't even know who shut it down. So you just think, oh, I'm freaking out, right? So that's the problem. That's step one, right? That's usually who people who haven't touched their trauma, that's what happens to them. And they don't even know why. Trigger. So what we're talking about is a deeper step. People going back to the trauma, starting to feel, starting to reprogram, starting to release, right? So those people are actually much further along in their trauma processing. So they're going to be freer from those symptoms, right? But the problem with psychotherapy or plant medicine is people they have these releases, but then when they're out of therapy, they're off of the plant medicine, they go back to their life, and the old patterns start creeping back, right? So the medicine is actually teaching them this, like their nervous system is still programmed that way to some degree, right? It's freed some, but like, oh, I see it with people here, right? Oh, triggered, and they go back, right? So the key, how do you deeply integrate that? Really, it's up to the person. If you release a lot of it, the person has to use like mindfulness and awareness when they go back. When they go back to the trigger, recognize,
it's a pattern.
This is a pattern.
You don't have to be there.
Connected to this trauma, and it's an old habit, and I need to cultivate a new habit now to create to create long-term.
That's awareness.
Yeah.
That's self-awareness.
Yeah.
So basically, self-awareness is the key.
Yeah.
If you are aware, you see where the pattern kicks in, and then you overcome. You kind of breach through awareness. And awareness is the key.
Yeah, awareness is the key. I think for deep, long-term transformation, and this is actually what I'm more interested in nowadays, is awareness, seeing the pattern, being able to start to shift now. Oh, I don't need to go to that same habitual pattern. I can stay in open freedom. I can stay in connection with the divine. I can stay in universal love, whatever it is. So that, I think now, to me, that's the most exciting thing for me, is having people make permanent shifts into these sacred transpersonal states and traits, right? Those are all oneness, universal love, everything.
It's a mystical.
That's all. That's the future development, and that's transpersonal psychology, right? So that's what I'm most interested in now, getting people there, right?
So, in your opinion, as a therapist, and you see my work with people, and you've been here twice, and it's full house here. You see a lot of people here.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think I could do better? What can I improve in my way of healing people from trauma?
Yeah.
And especially sexual abuse, or any trauma at all. Like, what do you see lacking in me, if any, or can be improved if I'm doing it right? Like, how can it be more effective?
Here's something that I noticed that I'm like, oh, you better be careful a little bit with that.
Saying less?
No, that's not it. So sometimes, it's tough, right? This piece, right? Why it's tough is I personally really like your humor, right? I really like your humor, right? And I understand it, right? I'm like, oh, it's kind of fun to kind of joke around. But you know what I notice? Sometimes when your humor, I look at the group, right? And some people look triggered, right? And if you have to be careful with that. You have to be careful with that humor, because if people are feeling like judged around their trauma or shame, they're going to close up. They're going to think it's not safe here for me to go there. Because the problem with traumas, right, is shame.
So I trigger shame with humor.
Yeah.
Trigger shame.
And this is it's part of male culture too. I grew up with it too, right? Me and my friends were just making fun of each other, and making jokes and stuff. But some people,
Too sensitive.
they could have, these traumas, and then the shame, right? So the shame with trauma is they don't want to have anybody see it.
They don't want to see it.
That's the thing. That's the shadow too, right?
That's my way to bring it up.
When people are some people,
Fine.
it'll work because then they can laugh about it.
Yeah,
right?
that's what it
Yeah.
is.
So that's when it works.
That's what it is. It works.
But the shadow of that is people close down more and get more shame.
So it depends on the person.
Depends on the person.
So I just need to be more distinguished.
You have to
like
be
a better
like,
distinguisher. Who to do it with.
Who to do it with? Who can handle it? Right?
Because it's a good
It's
medicine.
it's a challenge, actually. The humor is a challenge
And
for
it's a
people
good medicine.
to be light about their pain.
You laugh about this,
Yeah.
and it's like,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. It's a reframing.
It's a that's what I'm doing. It's
Yeah,
like, hey, just laugh at this.
Yeah.
But sometimes they cannot.
They
laugh
can't.
at it.
They're not ready yet.
They're ready to laugh.
Yeah.
So I need to kind of.
That's almost like a stage. Like the
Where it
laughing
can
part
be. It's
is
a
like
later stage.
before, no. During,
later,
no.
Later, yeah.
After,
After.
then they're like, oh yeah, I
So
used
I'm
to
giving
be
this
that
medicine too early to people. Too early. Sometimes too early. That's exactly what my wife is telling me.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
she's not a psychologist, man.
Yeah, she saw it.
She's just a Peruvian native, and she just she's like, hey, you need to be careful with this because you make some people upset.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I've seen
Yeah.
it too, right?
I understand,
People
so
get upset. Then I need to talk to them, right?
and then you talk to them psychologist.
Yeah, and then they talk to me, and they're like, "Oh, okay, maybe I'll stay."
No, it's a good feedback.
Yeah,
It's a good feedback, so I can improve the way I dose my humor,
Yeah,
the
But-
way and the timing,
yeah,
and
exactly.
timing and whom too.
Yeah. All
Some
of it.
people just
All
don't
of it.
understand.
Yeah.
Some people just too tied up.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
just
Yeah,
they're just too tied up. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
this. I don't know if I can, with you.
Yeah.
So I need. So what's it? It's timing.
Timing.
The
So I'll
later
give you.
stage.
Actually, I'll give you an example. Palpy,
Yeah.
right? He's good now.
It's good now. Yeah.
He can do that.
Yeah.
It's fine, right? It's like
Oh, in the beginning he was.
he couldn't, right? Yeah. So if you did it with him at the beginning, he
No,
probably
he
was
would be
like,
upset.
he's
Yeah.
like,
He would be upset.
"What the fuck?"
I would just hurt his feelings. He
Yeah.
would be like that.
Yeah.
But now it's
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
He shifts.
So first stage, and actually this is the same in psychotherapy.
Mhm.
At the beginning, you can't really challenge people. Everything's
Well,
like
they get defensive.
Yeah,
And
everything's
they
gentle,
project on you,
trust. At the beginning, you build the relationship so it's strong. Then you can challenge later, right? Once the relationship's strong,
Then you can do it.
challenge. Right?
You know what I think now? As
Yeah.
you say that,
Yeah.
I think my fault is that I make friends faster than other people make friends. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
That's right.
For me, it's
Yeah,
like
you're more
it's like socially like boom.
Yeah, yeah.
But you're not there.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm there,
yeah.
but you're not there yet. I need to wait for you.
Yeah,
I need to wait longer.
That's right.
And it's like, man, it's
Yeah.
already like 3 months past. You know what I mean? So it's a level of openness that I have to respect.
Yeah.
I have to remember that other
Yeah.
people just not as fast as me.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what they're saying is the timing.
Timing, stage,
Uh-huh.
even after people do journeys, you kind of get what happened in their journey. You're thinking, oh, okay. Even a good example too, like initially
Initially,
had
she was really
problems with you, but then yesterday she was like, oh, I
I
really
trust
like
you, I like you.
And we see that. Actually, I see that a lot with you.
Uh-huh.
Some people, not everybody. Some people just connect with you.
Yeah,
Right?
right
But
away.
I connected with you
Right
right
away,
away.
right
We're
away.
fine
Yeah.
right off the bat, right? But some
But
people,
it's where you are in your,
yeah,
development.
I've done a lot of work on myself.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Done all
yeah.
this other work.
Uh-huh.
Right? But some people who haven't done a lot of work, right? Or personality style, who knows? All sorts of factors. Initially, they get triggered by you, right? And then, if they get, this is what I see, they get tempted to leave, right? But then, they talk to me, so I'm like, hey, it's up to you.
Of course.
You can stay or leave, whatever. But usually what I see is, once they get past like a week or two, then they really like you, actually.
Well, because they open up.
Yeah.
We kind of get on the same frequency.
Yeah. So I think it's a pacing thing.
Pacing.
You have
pace,
to pay attention to
More time.
pacing, and the second, a good example, right? Like Clarissa, right? Two ceremony, she didn't get triggered by it.
No, she
Right?
was.
No, she was fine. That's one example,
Smooth.
right? So some people aren't.
No, it's not everybody.
Yeah,
It
not
depends
everybody,
on the
but
people.
some people, right? You have to kind of track that, right? Like,
Dose your humor,
yeah, careful with that, right?
because it's powerful medicine.
Yeah, it's
Humor,
powerful medicine,
it
but
just brings stuff
it's
up.
sensitive. 'Cause
Sensitive, yes.
different people have different. You have people from all over the world come here, right? Even regionally, humor is different, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like regionally, humor is
Yeah.
different.
Understood
Gender
differently.
humor is different, right? Like
Yeah,
all
yeah.
these different things.
It covers cultural baggage
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. So especially with trauma, people are going to be
More
already
defensive.
people with their vulnerabilities, they're shamed, so they don't want to show it. And if they feel like, oh, this guy's going to judge my vulnerability, they're not going to
But
necessarily.
is it really judging? I mean, it's not like it's like it's
Subtle judging.
It's very.
Subtle judging.
It's more like bring it up so you can see and like.
But if you bring it up that way, they're not. That's why honestly, like Mercedes sees this too. Like people bring me their trauma all the time, right? Because they know I'm like, I don't really judge it. Yeah.
But I don't judge too. It just
You subtly judge, subtly.
no. It depends. Man, if it's a serious thing, I'm very respectful. But if it's like, then we can talk about this in a different way. So you can laugh about it. It's just gonna. Hey,
I think
you're
later.
right, man. You're just taking yourself too serious. You know what
I
mean?
think later.
Later depends. There's a method to the madness.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not. It's not just making fun
Yeah,
of something.
yeah.
It's like untie yourself. So people
Yeah.
just taking themselves too seriously, and this seriousness is like everything's so serious. I'm so serious.
Yeah.
My ego is so serious.
Yeah.
My trauma is so serious.
Yeah.
Yes, of course,
Yeah.
there is that.
Yeah.
But lose up. It's like,
yeah.
hey,
But for people who have those issues, they can't just listen. Right?
that's hard. That's
Yeah.
it's like that. They hold it. They
Yeah.
hold it. Like, it's
It-
real,
it
man.
tight-
It's serious.
It tightens them more. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you tell someone, and I've seen this actually with my clients, and I'm like, hey, just relax. Like, you don't need to be so tight. You know what they're going to do?
more time.
Because they feel subtly judged.
You're judging them,
I'm
but
judging
you're not
them.
judging them. You're
Yeah,
just
I'm
not
not
judging them.
judging them, but
Relax and just
they
look how peaceful
they
is.
take
They
it that
feel
way.
like you're judging them.
Yeah. So that's why it's like beginning, super gentle.
Super gentle, just
And it's not like I'm super, I'm pretty much myself in my therapy session. So, I laugh and stuff. I can be light, right? We can joke around with
Yeah.
my clients, but
that's what the
initially,
real conversation is. I mean, to me, that's what the value is.
Yeah.
Real conversation, authentic,
authentic,
dynamic,
authentic
real. It's, you're
conversation.
not just playing it
But
by the book,
But authentic conversation in healing work, authentic conversation involves shadow parts. And people usually with their shadow parts have shame, vulnerability. So those are like touchy. So because those are touchy areas, you have to lay the groundwork really well.
foundation. And sometimes I speed it up.
Yeah.
I just kind of
Yeah,
Go fast.
Because you want to get people to joy and
Happiness.
happiness and transpersonal states
Yeah,
and traits,
of course.
mystical experience. Right? You want to get people there. That's why you want to speed it up.
yeah.
But then some people aren't ready. Right? Some people aren't ready.
That needs more work.
They need to lay the groundwork. Right?
That's why I prefer spiritual seekers than you know,
Yeah.
that's just like more fun work. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, let's just connect to
Yeah.
divine and talk about
That's
astral
easy.
shamans. You
That
know?
is easy, right? It's
You know?
easy. It's easy to work with spirit.
It's easy.
We've done
And more fun.
we've done a lot of work already.
Of course.
Right. We
Work on
come
yourself.
in, we've done like 20, 30 years of meditation, right? Therapy,
Medicine,
whatever,
soul
other
searching.
other whole healing modalities. We've already done that, so then it's easy for you, and that's why people like that don't get triggered.
Yeah, of course. We
We're
just
just
have a
ready.
great time.
Yeah, we're just like,
Have
okay,
great time. It's not
just
healing.
like communing with the universe, like just like exploring the mystery of existence.
Exactly. That's where my thing is. It's like
Well,
healing. It's just
yeah, it's part of
you
it.
have to do that
Yeah.
to bring people.
I
to
mean, me
that.
too, right? Like I told you, like my interest is that.
Is
I want
that.
to get people there.
Yeah,
Right.
but when somebody comes depressed with the layers of pain and the walls built around them, they can't see divine.
Yeah.
You have to bring them to
Yeah.
different level of well-being and connection,
Yeah.
so they can perceive beyond that. So
Well, I would say that's the difference between us two. Actually, I noticed when we had the previous interview that we were just, is that so there's something called like positive psychology. You're more oriented towards that, right? You want
Yeah.
people to kind of just open up to these things, right?
yeah,
So
That's my way.
Yeah, which is a good way. That's one way, right? But actually, a lot of my work is exploring the knots, being really curious, right? Like, oh, this person has this knot here. What is the knot? How did it get there? Right? Starting to like look into it, and through doing that, it starts to unwind, right? And then the positive states can arise, right? So that's another subtle difference, and it's because of my work, right?
Mm-hmm.
People come to me because they want to address some knots, right? So we're both going to the same place, but our methodologies are slightly different at times. Sometimes I go the more positive route.
and sometimes I go and deep.
Yeah, because you have to.
You have to. It's like
If
understand
something's
that.
stuck,
You need to understand.
you
that.
have to address
Understand.
the
You need to
stuck
address.
pattern, right?
Understand. See. That's it. Move
Yeah.
on. So we do that.
Yeah, I think the key now, from this time, I'm seeing it really clearly. It's like the whole pattern cycles. I see it with some people here. They open up, and then the whole pattern's coming up.
So how we help them more there?
They need daily practices.
Daily practice, yeah.
Awareness, meditation, just tracking themselves in the moment. When they get triggered, noticing how they're getting triggered.
So it's on them.
Yeah.
There's literally not much we
But-
can do.
But they can be supported.
Supported, yes. Reminded,
Reminded,
But it's up
supported.
to them to be willing to follow the
Yeah,
guidance.
of course.
It's still up to them.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean?
It's always up to them.
It's always.
That's the sovereignty of each being. Right. Each being has choice. Right. And they have a choice. Everybody here, once they leave, they have a choice.
What to be?
Will I go back to my old patterns, or will I cultivate new patterns that integrate what the medicine has showed me? Right. It's up to them.
It's up to them.
Yeah.
They get inspired and healed
Yeah.
to that point. Like, for example, I just got a message from a woman. She said, like, it's been a year since
I think
not a
so.
drop of alcohol.
Oh,
And she
wow.
came from alcoholic family, chronic alcoholism,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
1 year, complete
Yeah.
transformed.
Yeah.
She spent here like, I don't know, 5 weeks.
5 weeks.
5 weeks, totally. Like, she
Yeah.
was drinking a bottle a day just
Yeah.
to get by.
A bottle of alcohol.
Yeah, just I don't know what was it, but just to get by.
Yeah.
That's like bad,
bad, yeah.
1 year, not a drop. Not the
Wow.
first one. We have others too. It
Yeah,
just
yeah.
was like, but you see here, we show you,
Yeah.
we give you that strength
Yeah. Yeah.
to move
Yeah. To do it.
forward, to do it. But it
yeah.
is you who have to do the
Yeah,
work.
that's
That's where the integration
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
She went home and other people and just, no, I don't want this. I like my new lifestyle.
Yeah.
I like this habit
Yeah.
of sobriety, of, just well-being.
Yeah.
That's on them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
She can also go back to drink.
Yeah.
It's not like the medicine kind of hypnotizes you, like you will never drink vodka again.
yeah.
It's like that. It's like you can. You want this? Okay.
Choice.
It's choice. It's like,
It gives people choice.
it's a choice. Yeah,
It
absolutely.
gives people
It's
the
like-
freedom to
Yeah.
choose.
You choose.
Yeah.
That's why it's on you now.
Yeah.
Before you were unconscious, okay,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
now you are conscious.
Yeah, yeah.
You know the
And
choice,
it
and you see.
empowers people.
You empowers, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you choose.
Yeah.
So that's very good. So what else? How else can we help people with, like, particularly sexual abuse?
Sexual abuse?
Yeah, that's a lot, you know. Like,
Mm.
and how? Maybe the question is how you go about it if people don't want to talk about it. It's like, and you still want to help, like you don't want to, you just let it there. That's what I do. It's just,
Especially for sexual abuse. So,
you just let it there.
so the reason why, especially with sexual abuse, it should be on the person's terms.
Yeah.
Is the sexual abuse usually happen not on their terms?
Yes, of course,
You see
it's an
what I'm saying?
abuse.
Yeah.
You know, it's some kind of rape, some kind of violation.
Someone is doing something that's
Against them.
violating their will. Right.
So you don't want to kind of
you
repeat that.
You don't want to repeat it, right? So for my
Yeah.
clients with like sexual abuse,
Yeah.
it's like you're in charge here.
Yeah.
You want to talk about it. You don't want to talk about it, right? And I talk about that with my clients. You're fully in charge here, and I want to give you full empowered consent
Yeah.
around your life and your body and everything, right? Because you deserve that, right? Like the people who didn't honor that with you, there's something twisted with them.
That's what caused the pain. That's
Yeah.
trouble.
They're twisted.
Yeah, that's my approach. Pretty
Yeah.
much. Just
I think you just wait, right, and then it's kind of like if it comes up,
Comes up, good,
then
we talk.
yeah.
if
So
not,
similar. So I think I mean your position as a Huachumero, right, is a little different than my position as
Yeah.
a therapist, right? Because too in the therapy container, there's confidentiality. People know this isn't going to go anywhere else, right? But like in your Huachumero role, people might.
No, but if that's shared with me in private, that stays with me.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I will not share them.
But it's
with
not
other
like
people.
a known thing, you know. Like in psychotherapy,
But it's
confidential.
integrity, man. It's like you don't need to be a
Yeah,
therapist
yeah,
for
yeah.
this. Like, you
Yeah,
share
I
with
know.
me something like I'm not going to tell others. It's like that stays with me.
Yeah,
Unless
yeah.
you want to share, then you do that.
Yeah,
I'm not. You know, what I mean, that's like a normal
yeah.
kind of ethical thing to
Totally.
do to you know to
Yeah.
keep the secrets.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
so it's confidential.
Yeah. So that's same with any trauma, actually, right?
Yeah, but same.
That's what I'm telling you. Like people are very sensitive about their trauma, so that when they share it, they you know, it's like a sensitive thing.
It's trust to share.
Trust, yeah.
Because that can be, you know, shared and then
Yeah.
they will feel bad
Bad,
about it.
really feel bad.
Yeah.
When they're ready.
And then, yeah. Well, I'll let them do that. It's
Yeah.
like it's just like that's what the sharing ignites.
Yeah, yeah.
People go there sharing.
Yeah.
Sometimes I might feel like saying sexual abuse. No, that's not. But other things, like yeah, sometimes I suggest like okay, why don't you share it with the group
Yeah.
and see how you get supported and
How it
understand by others,
feels, yeah.
how it feels.
Yeah.
It's kind of moving, helping people to move through those barriers.
Yeah.
Like share that
Yeah.
if you want. You don't have to, but it might be helpful if you share and then 15 people just give you their perspective and
Yeah.
give you their support and compassion.
Most of the time,
You
people
just
are.
you release yourself from this,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
It's like how it goes, you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
No, I mean I see it too. Like at night, that's part of the healing.
That's the integration. It's
Yeah.
immediate. It's
Because
right
people
away.
are getting a lot of love,
from others.
and
So
support.
it's like okay, so that's okay to share.
Yeah.
I don't need to
Yeah.
carry that. I
Yeah.
can just, you know, of course you need to know who to share. Don't walk on the street and tell
Yeah,
people.
yeah, yeah.
But this is the right people.
Yeah,
This is
of
what
course.
this is support group.
Yeah.
It's where you do that safety.
It's spiritual community.
Exactly. That's where you do it,
Yeah.
and that helps you to
Integrate.
break through this.
Yeah.
Integrate. It's
Yeah.
like okay, I'm not ashamed.
Yeah.
It's all good, you know.
Yeah.
You let it go.
Yeah.
Out it goes,
That's right.
and you feel relieved
Yeah.
out of this.
Yeah.
Free.
That's part of the release process.
It's a release process
Yeah.
sharing. So, you know, sometimes you can say like, I think it would be good for you to share.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
I
But you,
think
if you
that's
want,
good.
it's a suggestion. It's
Yeah.
not a, you're not
Not
forced to.
like a forced.
No. You feel safe,
Yeah.
do that. You don't, okay.
Yeah.
It's up to you. You can carry it alone,
Yeah.
or you can share the burden with 15 people.
Yeah.
It's like, so everybody takes a kilo,
Yeah.
and your life become very light.
Yeah.
I mean, your weight become very
Yeah.
light. So that's one of the.
Yeah.
That's why we do this stuff.
Yeah.
The share.
No, it's important.
You can play guitar all night. I mean, that's nice too, but it's not as deep
Yeah.
as real conversations.
Yeah.
It's like authentic. It's powerful. It's powerful.
Yeah.
All my, to me personally, this is how I, all my wisdom that I received from my teachers worked through that.
Oh, what?
Just through authentic
Oh,
conversations.
authentic conversations.
That was not like specific sessions,
Yeah.
classrooms. It just was like in the medicine, heart-to-heart conversation. That was like, this
Yeah.
is truthful.
Well, I
This is
think I
real.
think the medicine too allows it so people can be authentic. Right?
Can be, and
Can
that's
be.
where you learn and heal.
That's right.
That's exactly right. And in the medicine, it's easier because it just makes you that. It's like,
Opens you up
opens.
to be your authentic self.
That's it.
All of yourself.
all of you,
Yeah.
and you just like, here it is
Yeah.
on the table, man.
Yeah.
And you on the table, and they're on the table, and we all see,
Yeah.
and we all eat from the same plates, kind
That's
of
right.
metaphorically
That's
speaking.
right. Yeah.
That's what it is. So
Yeah.
how you do it in therapy when people are more closed, when they don't have medicine to open them up? Should be the harder way.
I'd
Takes
say
longer.
it's mainly the relationship and the container, actually. The relationship in the container. So I'll give you an example. Like some people that come to see me, the very first session, they just start crying. Right? The reason why, they know, this container is safe. This is a place where I can just take off my mask and just like cry or let them know about my shadow. So part of it is sociocultural, right? People already know therapy is a place you can do that, right? A safe place to do that, right? So that's part of it. And then also the relationship, right? Because some people, they're not going to necessarily trust me or the therapist right off the bat. They're kind of testing me a little bit, and they're doing little things to kind of test how
If you're
I
for
react.
real,
Yeah.
it's not every therapist is.
Yeah.
It's a therapist.
Of course. Not every therapist.
Like not every Huachumero
cares.
is
Yeah,
Huachumero, not every ayahuasquero is.
Yeah.
It's it's not pretend.
It's a whole
It's a spectrum.
variety of people,
Yes.
different qualities.
And it comes to the person.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what you do. You can do
Yeah.
medicine, you can do therapy.
Yeah.
It's who are you.
A lot of it is the person.
And also, you basing your work on trust.
Yeah.
Like trust.
Trust.
That's how it is here too. It's
Yeah.
like without trust, you can do anything. It's like
Exactly.
people just kind of
Yeah. They just waffle.
they're not coming close to it. It's like, there's not much you can do to.
Yeah.
It's like okay, just hi.
Yeah.
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 It's not, it's not that.
Yeah.
It's not much. I wish we get closer so I can share with you more, but
Yeah.
it's like I don't insist myself. Insisting is not imposing. It's not my way.
Yeah.
I don't impose. It's like I'm there available
Yeah.
if you are,
Yeah.
but I'm not imposing it. The medicine doesn't do that.
Yeah.
It's like it's there. I just
The
show you.
medicine's, this medicine does not work that way.
It's not like that. It's just like
Yeah.
here is the truth.
Yeah. It's up to you.
So you decide what you want
Yeah.
to do with it. It's very respectful and very like non-intrusive. That's
Yeah.
why I like it so much. It's like
Yeah.
here it is.
Yeah.
It's not like you have to go on it.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to go to alcohol? Okay,
Yeah. It's your choice.
it's your choice, man. But that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's your life.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's your life.
Yeah.
Oh, I like it better.
Yeah.
Well, then go there. You
Yeah.
have the strength. You have the clarity. You have the strength. You can do it.
Yeah.
It gives you that.
Yeah.
It gives you that
Yeah.
long-lasting boost. But you decide.
Yeah.
It's a personal decision.
Yeah.
So how you explain people that it's a lot to do with them? Like it's not what they want to hear though. They want you to fix their problems. I get it here a lot.
Oh, really?
And the medicine's like, oh, I drank the medicine, that's it, my life changed. It's not exactly like this. It's not
it
like
has to
this.
work.
You have
Everybody
yeah.
has to work.
But you don't get that in your work. People just, you're a therapist, you help me fix my depression, fix everything. I don't need to do anything kind of thing. You don't get that attitude?
There's some people like that, more at the medical clinic. there some people are like that because they're working from the medical model, which is more dependent.
Which is like pills and stuff,
Yeah.
medications.
So I work at a medical clinic, an addiction clinic there.
Uh-huh.
And there, some people, that's the relationship with the doctor. So then when they see me, they might expect something similar. But then I explain to them that's not really how
So
it
it's
works.
different there because they give you medication, they give you some substances.
At the
the
clinic?
clinic.
Yeah.
That's what they did. That's what it is. Like they expect more. Like, okay, you give me the pill,
Yeah.
and the pill helped me,
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah,
cured.
That's right.
So that's kind of the mentality people
Some
bring
people.
here.
And that's from the medical model, right? It's like
Yeah, that's not a psychological.
it's a disempowered sort of model. It's like someone needs to fix me type model.
I get that here.
Yeah.
Like, okay, here's the medicine.
It comes from the medical
Yeah.
system.
I drink this, my life changed.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, I go home.
Yeah.
Don't need to do anything.
Yeah.
It's not exactly you work with it,
You have to
know.
work.
Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
work.
During the medicine, people have to work, otherwise.
That's why I call it work.
Yeah, it is work.
It's a work. It's like it's a
Yeah.
beautiful. It's magical. It's
Yeah.
loving.
Yeah.
It's mystical, but
Yeah.
it's a work. You sit there and you.
It's work and it's a relationship,
Yeah.
right? It's like you're building a relationship with this plant spirit, right? And you have to work, right? You have to go to the spots where energy's stuck, right? Things aren't open. or-
facing yourself.
And then if you do that work, then all this
Then
opens
things change.
up, right? The mystical states open up, access to the universe, other dimensions,
Yeah.
all of it opens up, but you have to work.
It's
initially.
work. That's why I tell people before they come. Healing doesn't happen in the sky.
Exactly.
And it's not like a movie that you
Yeah,
watch somewhere.
that's right.
So you
That's right.
participate in
Yeah.
that. That's the truth.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Good. So maybe now we can talk to astral shamans.
Hey man, I've
We can do that.
three ceremonies.
So listen, maybe you share that. Like how that happens in my ceremonies. How your connection to that realm here.
So
Which is completely out there, but
pretty out there. So
Yeah.
it happened the first time I drank with you by the
Last
river.
year.
Last year
Yeah.
by the river. And what I first saw out of the corner of my eye, I saw like figures made of like blue
Light?
No, they're made out of green and white light moving. And I'm like, what's going on? And then I started hearing a voice, but the voice wasn't in the voice of my mind. It was in a weird, like, foreign accent. And they said, we're talking to you like this so you know it's not your own mind. Right? And
so you can make up the accent.
yeah, I was like, this is weird, man. And then they had me, they like, it was a whole process, and then they said, do you want to, like, be initiated into our group? And I'm like, okay. And there was, like, a seat. It was almost like a some sort of, like, throne or something. They're like, go and sit there. And I sat there, and then they said they initiated me. Right? So that was last year, right? And actually, at that time, they said, bring everybody on the planet here. We can heal everybody on the planet because there's so powerful energies there. Okay. And they wanted me to actually tell people. And that's when I actually mentioned it in our last interview.
Uh-huh.
Right? So then I come back this time, and then this was on Monday, and then I crossed the river, right? And I'm just sitting there, and I could tell. And I told you about the suppository, so it was like super strong. And then I see my old teacher, Huachuma teacher, right, and who died. And I just feel her love, just like extraordinary love. And I start like crying because I feel so much love from her. And she's like teaching me, like how the like post-death realms work, and like how creation works. Actually, she's teaching me weird stuff about how reality is co-created by all of our consciousnesses. So then, if I'm thinking of you, Sergey, my consciousness is doing that. It's actually manifesting something in the universe, and then who you think of also manifests that. So actually, me thinking of her helps her have a certain form in the universe, right? So she's teaching me all this kind of weird stuff about how reality is co-created by everyone's consciousness. And then at the end, she morphs into one of these astral shamans. Right? Well, that's interesting. And then I see other astral, or sense and feel astral shamans there, right? And then I look at you on the other side, and I'm so deep in this astral realm, I'm like, do I just stay here? You know? Because I was so like in it, right? In that like dimension of consciousness, right? So that actually happened on Monday. And then she's come maybe like 2 to 3 of my ceremonies to teach me the same type of phenomenon, where she takes, it's like I'm linking to her consciousness through her old form in her previous life, but then eventually she turns into more of like a masculine shamanic figure, right? And actually Marisu asked me, because I have this thing where I can look into people's soul and I'll see things, right? And so I've been doing that with different people that ask me. And then Marisu asked me, hey, can you do that for me later? I'm like, yeah, like later. And then you know what they told me? They're like, oh, Marisu's soul went of us. And Marisu said, some psychic told me, you used to be kind of a shaman around here or something like that.
So the question is, do you think that was your teacher, or that's the spirit that takes the shape of your teacher, which makes it more relatable to you?
I wondered the same thing. The sense I get is it's really her.
It's really
like her consciousness, left the body.
Yeah, pass that.
You can pass by.
I think it was her.
The sense I got, it was actually I was linking to her consciousness through her old form, and then
the spirit can do that.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, the medicine can just take shapes.
It can take different shapes.
Different shape, and then you think it's the person, but it's just the spirit that makes it more relatable to you. The message to bring the message closer. That's just that's magic, you know. That's like this.
I'm not sure.
I don't know what it is.
But you know what? The same thing happens with near-death experiences. So a lot of times when people have near-death experiences...
No, I had one in Mexico.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Okay.
So figures who've passed usually come, right? So the question, even with those, I have that question. I'm like, is this the actual person, spirit, or is it like, the bigger divine reality?
So what's the answer? They don't know.
I don't know. I would say so. The weird thing around time, right? Because if reincarnation is true, then so I was asking this. I'm like, is she reborn or what? Is she just in the astral realm, right? So that's something I'm still exploring.
But as we are talking now, I have an understanding that actually it doesn't matter. What matters is the message.
Yeah, of course.
The teaching, what they're trying to tell you is the matter. It doesn't matter if that's a person, if that's the spirit, that's astral shaman. It doesn't really matter. The medium, that's where we lose the message.
Yeah.
That's where the whole science lost the whole, that's where science lost the connection of spirit. Trying to, how does it work in your brain? Instead of focusing on the teaching, on the message. So I think we're repeating that unconsciously. It's a kind of a cultural...
Well, it's a search for truth, too. Right? You want to know what the truth is. So that's understandable.
Yes. But the message,
the message is
the greater truth.
Yeah. The message
than
is
who is giving the
important.
message. The message is greater than the message. That's the whole point of the messenger, to bring you the message. It's not about the message. Messenger.
It's not about the message.
So it's important to remember that. Just as we talk, I thought it was important. So maybe we talk about this. You said that Huachuma heals this thing, and you said it's like a big thing in the world.
Ulcerative colitis or proctitis.
So maybe we talk about that a little. Like, what is it? Why people suffer from this, and how?
So there's something called ulcerative proctitis and colitis, which is it's basically a global medical problem, and I got diagnosed with ulcerative proctitis in probably like 25 years ago. And when I first got diagnosed, I'm like, they're giving me all these medications, and I'm like, why am I going to take these medications? I want to know what the medications do. So the medications were steroids to suppress my immune system, so there's not inflammation in my colon, right? Because of the inflammation, then it causes blood, diarrhea.
Yeah,
these types
your
of
immune system attacking the host.
It's too active, right? So they're trying to suppress the immune system. But I thought, I was looking at the causes, and they don't know the cause, and I'm thinking, you know what? The body is a brilliant thing, right? The body's brilliant.
It's intelligent.
The immune system is working like that for a reason, right? So because of that, I didn't want to take these medications.
To suppress it.
So I started looking at more natural ways of addressing it, right? And then, but eventually what I found out is most of the time when I have these flare-ups, which is common with this condition, it's related to mold or some other external factor. That's why my immune system's overactive. So most of the time I just realize, oh, there's something in my environment that's causing the trigger. But then I change my environment or whatever the trigger is, and my symptoms go away. This time didn't work. Right? And this time what I understood is this condition is multi-layered. Right? There can be physical aspects, right? Emotional aspects, psychological aspects, spiritual aspects, collective aspects, right? Taking on energies from other people or the environment or what have you, right? So what I found through the Huachuma is like the Huachuma can address some of these other dimensions of it, right? Taking spiritual, taking on energies from other people. That's what came up in my first two ceremonies. Psychological aspects, like because I have the symptoms, sometimes there's fear in my body because I can crap my pants, right? And that's a problem actually for a lot of people who suffer from this, right? You can't control like your bowels, right? And then of course emotional aspects, and even like
guys, we're just trying to keep conversation going here, just please interview.
And then some of the physical aspects. So the sense I got during one ceremony is actually this could be a very powerful healing agent for people who suffer from conditions like this. Right?
And how do you see it works actually? Like how does it heal that?
So what I see is one aspect of it is energies we take on for living. Right?
So it releases the energy.
Can release the energy we take on
So
through living.
the
Right?
nervous system relaxes.
Yeah. So then the nervous system can relax, right? So if we've taken on certain like traumas or energies, the Huachuma can clear that. So then the immune system, the nervous system can function more efficiently and normally, right? So that's one aspect. It can also address personal difficulties and traumas, right? That might be contributing, right? Also, even like trust, right? I noticed with some of the conditions, I was like, oh, I'm holding a lot of fear in my body around the condition, right? Like just having the symptoms help me like release some of the fear.
And it's all causing relaxation.
Yeah, it's all causing the nervous system to be more balanced, the immune system to start to
deactivated.
Yeah. So actually, what was an interesting thing, because I told you on 2 days I used a suppository, which is a typical treatment for this.